The sun gradually set behind the mountain range, and the nightfall enveloped the city. In the vast room, Quang sat absent-mindedly, his gaze dimming as he recalled the tense meeting with Linda's ex-husband. That man, despite being divorced from Linda for many years, still carried a deep-seated hatred. And Quang knew that man was not someone to be dealt with easily. Every time he thought of the threats from him, Quang couldn't feel at ease, fearing that Linda might be in danger. Looking out the window, Quang suddenly made a decision. I can't let her be alone in this situation, he thought. In the midst of his anxiety, Quang called his mother, the woman who had always been his emotional pillar. I want you to help Linda. I'm afraid she'll be in danger if she stays by herself. Quang spoke urgently. His mother, a hard-working woman who always loved others more than herself, listened to her son and nodded immediately. Don't worry, I'll take care of her. I'll help Linda as if she were my own daughter. Quang felt relieved yet full of worry. He thought about Linda and everything she had been through. How could a woman who had endured so much pain live alone in this situation? He decided he would bring Linda to live with him, so she wouldn't have to face everything alone anymore. But Linda didn't see it that way. Recalling Quang's offer, her heart grew even more conflicted. He wanted her to live with him, to live with his mother in their large house. Quang said that he and his mother would protect her, would take care of her, but Linda felt that it would be too much of a sacrifice. She couldn't imagine living off the help of others, especially in such a well-off family like Quang's. We're divorced now, I'm no longer a part of their lives, Linda told herself, the voice in her head sounding like reproach. How could I live like a burden? How could I let them take responsibility for my life? Guilt and embarrassment flooded her mind. Quang was a good man, and his mother was an incredibly kind woman, but she couldn't accept their help. She didn't want to be a bother to them, didn't want to become a burden in a family where she had no rights. Shyness, feelings of inferiority, and self-consciousness led Linda to make an unexpected decision. She quietly packed her belongings, the small items she had carried throughout her stormy life. When Quang's mother entered the kitchen, Linda quickly left the house that Quang and his mother had prepared to welcome her. She left in a hurry without a word of farewell. Everything happened so fast, as though she were running away from the kindness she couldn't accept. Linda stepped out of the house, her heart pounding in her chest, but there was also a light sense of relief. She knew this was a difficult decision, but it was the only choice. She didn't want to become a burden to anyone, no matter how good they were. Linda hurried down the small road, her steps quick as if she were running away from the care and attention she couldn't embrace. With every step, her heart felt like an empty shell, yet there was a strange sense of comfort. She couldn't understand why, but perhaps, for the first time in her life, she felt like she was doing the right thing, even though the decision was full of pain and self-doubt. She stopped by a wall, sat down, and took a deep breath. The sunlight had begun to shine down, but the space around her felt dim and unfamiliar. Since the divorce, Linda had gotten used to the feeling of loneliness, used to standing strong on her own. But still, everything had changed so much. Quang, the man she had never stopped feeling grateful for, had appeared in her life, bringing with him concern and an offer of help that she couldn't refuse. Yet she couldn't face that help. She couldn't imagine what her life would be like if she lived on their kindness. The memories of the dark days in her past marriage kept Linda from shaking off her feelings of inferiority, the sense that she was a burden. No matter how kind Quang and his mother were, she still felt she wasn't worthy of their help. Not long after, Quang and his mother discovered Linda's disappearance, and an immediate sense of panic seized Quang's mind. There was no sign of her departure, only an empty room, as if she had just been there, but everything had vanished. His heart tightened, unable to accept the truth that Linda had quietly left without saying a word. His mother stood frozen by the door, her gaze filled with worry as she looked at him. "Where has she gone, Quang? Didn't you see her?" she asked, her voice choked with anxiety. Quang didn't answer, instead rushing outside, shouting Linda's name. "Linda, where are you?" Each step he took felt like a heartbeat in his chest, hurried and filled with fear. The air outside seemed suffocating, and every second felt like it stretched on forever. His mother hurried after him, and together they went through the familiar streets, but found no trace of Linda. Quang couldn't stop thinking about what could happen to her. He remembered the meeting with Linda's ex-husband, a cold and calculating man filled with hatred. One wrong move and Linda could fall into danger. Her ex-husband, he's not someone easy to deal with, Quang thought to himself. He couldn't shake the possibility that Linda's ex-husband was hiding somewhere, waiting for the right moment to act. His heart raced with fear, not only for Linda but for the hidden dangers she could face. Quang's mother looked at him, her eyes also full of concern. "Don't worry too much, we'll find her. I believe we will." She tried to reassure him, but even she couldn't remain calm. She understood that in this situation, they couldn't let Linda be alone, especially with her ex-husband potentially lurking nearby. They kept searching, walking through every street, asking everyone they met, but their efforts yielded no results. Each time they asked someone, Quang felt like his hope was being buried just a little more. "Linda, where are you? You can't just go like this," Quang whispered, his voice choking with helplessness. His mother tightly grasped his hand, unwilling to leave his side even for a moment. "We have to find her. I know you're worried, but don't let panic stop you from thinking clearly." The empty streets, the dim streetlights reflecting in Quang's eyes, only deepened his worry, pulling along with it a sense of exhaustion and unease. He couldn't leave her alone, couldn't let her fall into the hands of her ex-husband. Linda was walking alone down a desolate street in the quiet of the night. She had no idea where she was heading, but the fatigue and confusion in her mind made her want to escape from everything, to find some peace. Her thoughts were a tangled mess, thinking of Quang, of the help he had given her, and the anxiety of not knowing what to do next. But she couldn't go back, couldn't burden him or his mother any longer. She had to stand on her own. Suddenly, two young men appeared out of nowhere, blocking her path. Linda didn't have time to react. She only felt a strong hand jerk the bag from her grasp. "Hey, let go!" she screamed, panic rising in her chest, but as she pulled back, one of the men grabbed her wrist tightly, preventing her from moving. "Shut up!" one of them sneered, his eyes glinting with menace. "Just hand over everything and we'll let you go." Linda's heart felt as if it were about to leap out of her chest. She tried to hold onto her bag, but the strength of the man was too much. The other man stepped closer, his gaze hungry, looking at her like easy prey. "Don't do anything." "I don't have much money," Linda stammered, trembling as she held onto her bag. But everything happened so fast. She felt herself being pushed into a corner with no way out. Despair and fear surged within her. This was the first time she had ever faced such a dangerous situation, and she knew she wouldn't be able to escape without help. One of the young men reached out, about to snatch the last of her belongings from her hands. Linda could only bite her lip, too afraid to cry out, but inside, she was praying for a miracle. She had nothing but a few personal items, but if they took those, she couldn't imagine what would happen next. And on top of it, both men had ill intentions toward her. What was she supposed to do now? Could someone come to help Linda? All that filled her mind now was hopelessness.
Nhân vật chính là một người phụ nữ mạnh mẽ nhưng cũng đầy tổn thương. Sau cuộc hôn nhân đổ vỡ, cô phải gánh vác mọi thứ một mình, không chỉ vật lộn với công việc để nuốt sống bản thân, cô còn phải chịu đựng những cuộc gọi và những yêu cầu bất ngờ từ người cũ. Người không chỉ bỏ lại cô mà còn tiếp tục gây phiền toái cuộc sống cô. Những hành động này khiến cô cảm thấy như mình không thể nào thoát khỏi quá khứ, luôn bị kìm hãm bởi những vết thương tinh thần chưa chữa lành. Tuy nhiên, cô không để sự đau khổ đó đánh gục mình, Mặc dù mỗi ngày đều phải đối diện với khó khăn, cô vẫn kiên trì, vẫn bám víu vào những hy vọng nhỏ nhoi. Cô lao vào công việc, chăm chỉ bất chấp mệt mỏi và cô đơn. Dù vậy, cô không thể thoát khỏi cảm giác bị đè nặng bởi quá khứ và những bóng ma của cuộc hôn nhân không hạnh phúc, tưởng chừng như cuộc sống mạnh mẽ. Như vậy cho đến khi cô gặp được một chàng trai tốt bụng. Anh là một người đàn ông thành đạt, nhưng điều khiến anh nổi bật không chỉ là sự giàu có mà là tấm lòng nhân hậu và khả năng thấu hiểu sâu sắc. Sự xuất hiện của anh là một bước ngoặt lớn trong cuộc đời cô. Anh không chỉ giúp cô về mặt tinh thần mà còn là nguồn động viên lớn. Anh là người khiến cô cảm thấy mình xứng đáng được tôn trọng, yêu thương và nhận được sự giúp đỡ. Đặc biệt ở đây không chỉ là chàng trai giúp cô giải quyết những vấn đề trước mắt, mà anh chính là người đã giúp cô nhận ra giá trị của bản thân. Cô gái dần dần thấy rằng cô không cần phải chịu đựng sự phiền toái từ người cũ, rằng cô xứng đáng có một cuộc sống bình yên và hạnh phúc. Mối quan hệ giữa họ chỉ đơn thuần là sự giúp đỡ về tài chính hay vật chất, mà còn là sự kết nối sâu sắc giữa hai con người. Trong đó, cô tìm thấy được sự tự tin và niềm tin trong cuộc sống. Chàng trai là hình mẫu lý tưởng, là người đàn ông không chỉ là thành công trong cuộc sống, mà còn đầy tình yêu thương và trách nhiệm với những người xung quanh. Anh không nhìn cô như một cô gái yếu đuối cần cầu cứu vớt, mà là một người bạn đồng hành, luôn sẵn sàng giúp đỡ và động viên cô khi cô cần thiết.